everybody. I hope you're doing well today and welcome on the ADHD Melly Show. So before I start, I want to remind you that in October is the ADHD Month Awareness. So that's what I wanted to tell you just to make sure that you know about that. And this month is quite special because I'm going to post every day some fact about ADHD on my profile. So just stay tuned on that. And don't forget, like you can see here, I started that Indiegogo page to help me found the ADHD Melly Show and being able to give you even more content every week. And that's what I wanted to say at the beginning. So today we're going to talk about the reality of late diagnosis with Rosa Breen. So let's welcome her, everybody. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Melly. Happy Friday evening to you from the UK.
It's still the evening here too, because I will say more, yeah, okay, it's not exactly the evening, but it's 1 p.m., it's not the morning neither. Like you will see my English is not perfect, and sometimes I can lose some words, and I'm sorry about that at the beginning. So if somebody is new and watching the ADHD Melly Show, know that my name is Melly, and I'm a French speaker from Canada. I'm from Montreal, Quebec, so English is my second language. So that's what I wanted to say to you. So first of all, what I always do is I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. What are you doing in your life, etc. I want to know a little bit more about you.
Okay. Wow, thank you. Hi, everyone. How are you all doing? Hope you've had a fabulous week. So I'm Rosa B. I am a creative career coach, and I work for a social enterprise called Even Break. And I support people with disabilities. So that's everything from neurodiversity, right through to Parkinson's, schizophrenia, partially hearing, you name it. And I absolutely love it because I'm getting to support people into employment, into work. So I work really creatively. Obviously, myself, I've got ADHD, but I've also got dyslexia. And I think, Melly, I think I might also have dyspraxia too. So I actually really, really love working with all my clients, but really my passion is working with clients who are neurodivergent because I have that lived experience as well. So that's just a little bit about me.
So the first question I'm going to ask, why did you reach for a diagnosis? What was the key point to tell you that maybe you were neurodivergent?
That's a really, really good question. Well, I think you and I are going to be going back and forth because your lived experience is very different from mine, right? Anyone who's got ADHD or who's neurodivergent, we're not all the same, okay? So if we can all think back to the early days of the pandemic and COVID, it was doing my head in. I was locked inside. I couldn't go out freely. I felt like my freedom had been impinged upon, and I was climbing the wall. And I decided to break out one day and just go for it. When I came back, my partner said, my goodness, you can't rest, you can't settle. And he just flippantly said, I think you've got ADHD or something. You should just go get it checked out. I don't know what happened, Melly, in that moment, but I just I actually paid attention for a change, right? I went out and locked myself in my car and rang my doctor and said, hey, I've got this kind of hunch. I think I might have this, but I'm actually not too sure. Can we check it out? And one thing led to another. And then I decided to go get the diagnosis. And here in the UK, there's you've got to wait for up to about 2 years to get your diagnosis if you're going through the NHS. And of course, you know me, not very patient. I wanted to know yesterday. I was on a mission. I was going to find out. I was going back and forth. I was super excited about getting a diagnosis. I wanted the answer. Then we had the day of the test. And I have to say, I found it very confronting, very confusing. I had to fill out a lot of reports, a lot of stuff about my background, when I was a child, how I grew up. My partner had to fill out lots of stuff. And honestly, it felt like I was back in school writing an essay, and I'm dyslexic. I kind of got really haughty and said, I'm not doing any more of this. I'm happy to talk to you or record it, but why do I have to write these reams and reams of notes? Long story short, anyway, we get the diagnosis. 40 minutes into the session, he diagnoses me as a mix of, attention deficit. And I was asked straight away, do you want to go on meds? And I was like,
Big question, right? Because you just know it now. You need to make your own research. For me, meds may be good, but you don't say yes right away because you want to make some research and make sure it's for
yeah,
you, because there's a lot of side effects too. It's I think the doctor was a little bit too fast asking you, do you want meds, or at least to. He should ask you if you wanted to do therapy or anything that could help you being
yeah.
a little bit better with yourself. There's other things than med right away. You want to put you med now. Let's go, like candy, right?
Yeah, honestly, Melly, I was like, for because I actually, even though I really wanted to know, I didn't think that I had it, right, but I needed to rule it out, and then all of a sudden, I had it. There I was, a neurodivergent. I had ADHD. I've got a disability apparently, and I was just in shock. And I kind of went into a deep grieving straight away. And so to get that very flippant, do you want to go on meds, to me was really confronting. That was not something I wanted to go near because I hadn't even thought about that. And I said to the psychiatrist, can you kind of give me 5 to think about it? Basically, I took 3 or 4 weeks, and I went back and forth. I thought I had to go on the meds, and then I thought I don't want to go on the meds, and I went through this loop, and I didn't know who to reach out to. I didn't know who to speak to. I thought, and then I started reading up about the meds, and I was getting these mixed messages, and I was honestly not sure. And looking back on it, I wish I knew who to reach out to, who to talk to. I felt very lonely and isolated in all of this. And so I decided to give the meds a go, which is a whole other chapter. It's a whole other webinar, Melly.
But you told me that you were dyslexia, so I guess, did you get diagnosed when you were a kid for that?
No, never diagnosed. I just knew something was up. I'm still not formally diagnosed, but we know with ADHD, it's comorbid, right? It sits alongside usually something else. So for me, it's dyslexia, and I'm terribly clumsy. I might be drinking my tea and I might spill it down the side. I'm clumsy. I lose my keys. I fall into things. I've got, honestly, and so I think I may have a little bit of dyspraxia there too. So I've got kind of a mixture of stuff. Do I want to go through a whole formal diagnosis with that after what I went through with my ADHD? I'm kind of comfortable with it. I know where I am. And it first came to light when I was at university, and the head of the English department, because believe it or not, I decided to do English. With dyslexia, I decided to do English. I had to read all these books. I'm ADHD. I can't pay attention. So go figure, right? Anyway, he pulled me in and he said, we really think your content's really clever, but the way you write, we can't really figure it out. Maybe you should go get a test. And so I went and got a test, but I really enjoyed doing the test because it was all about patterns, figuring out patterns. It had nothing to do with spelling or anything like that. And I passed it with flying colors. So, but I do have a problem. I have a problem with organizing content. I get letters mixed up, which can cause a lot of drama. So I might get public mixed up with pubic. Right? That's the biggest problem if you're having to write something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's varying degrees of it. Some of us are a little bit more extreme than others, but there's enough there for it to cause me problems. I get very stressed out when I'm having to do PowerPoints because I'm fastidious on how it looks, the spelling, And no matter how many times I check and how much time I spend on it, there will always be some little clumsy looking error, right? That looks kind of sloppy, but it's just my dyslexia. And so these are things you just have to learn to deal with and manage and get support.
Yeah, it's true. So when you were younger, or maybe when you were at school, were you good at school? Did this something? Maybe do you think that your teacher were talking? This girl is a little bit too is not attentive. Is always in the moon or always moving. You never had comments like that when you were younger.
I think I daydreamed. I didn't particularly enjoy the way learning was delivered. I would sit at the back of the class and I might daydream. I might get a little bit bored. But I was put into a special learning class and I had no idea why. I thought it was because, well, I didn't like maths. I couldn't figure it out neither. And so I was quite happy to miss certain classes. So I was delighted that I could skip off and go to the special needs or special learning group, right? But when I was in there, it was like, what am I doing here? I mean, I'm very switched on and quite smart. I mean, this is really boring me. That to me was better than sitting in the class where I had to figure out maths and numbers, because it used to give me a lot of overwhelm and I used to get stressed out. So for me, I was looking at, okay, what's the best scenario for me here? Do I miss and skip my maths class and go to my special learning class? Hey, let's do that. I think that's a better result for me. But I do remember our principal told my mom at the time, she's not going to pass the 11 plus. She's going to fail. So I went, screw you. I'm not doing it. So I didn't do my 11 plus and I just went to a secondary school. So I have very mixed emotions about my schooling. You know, parts of it I enjoyed, but mostly I was kind of bored.
Yeah, I was bored too, but at the same time, me too, math was hell, and it's still hell, math. But at the same time, do you know that there's, you're talking about dyslexia, but there's another word for that for math. So maybe it can be that too, that you cannot, it's difficult with numbers. There's another term for that too in the neurodivergent world too, about mixing numbers and having some difficulty doing some numbers and stuff like that too. So it may be that as well, it's something that exists.
Probably, I've got all the D's. So I've got, after my name, I've got these fabulous titles. It might not be MD and it might not be PhD, but it's probably ADD, ADHD, and DD.
But now it changed. The term is always ADHD, but there's some 3 columns of ADHD. One is inattentive, the others is I think something like that. There's 3 different columns of what you can be in ADHD, but now it's only called ADHD for some reason, even if you're not hyperactive, because you are hyperactive actually, but in your mind. It doesn't need to be running a mile and go back all the time. It doesn't need. For me, I'm hyperactive physically too, but it's not only about being physically, it can be mentally too.
You're spot on. And there's this whole thing about women with ADHD, and it's not as well researched or is talked about as much, because there was always an assumption that ADHD was more prevalent among young boys, and it's quite obvious because they can be demonstrate or show hyperactivity and can't sit still. And for girls, you're right, it doesn't have to manifest in that physical running around, although there are times where I have that kind of feels like a mania. It's more so in the mind. My mind is racing. It might feel like it's chaotic. I might be exploding with a lot of creative ideas. They are coming fast. And I find they come at the most unusual times, when I wake up first thing in the morning, when I'm out in nature, when I'm taking a shower, or when I'm hanging out and having conversations with people. I'm just exploding with ideas. And I love it. For other people that might be too much, but it's who I am. So I've got to learn to harness those ADHD strengths and just go with the flow.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's better to just write it out and just think twice about it, because you can be, when ADHD, you can be able, you're impulsive too, you can do this now and regret it, or seeing that that project just doesn't make sense, like the ADHD.
But you can do stuff and go 2 weeks later, drop it and go, what the hell was that all about? But that's okay, because you can come back round to it. There's a reason why you've got into it. And the great thing is you can go down many different garden paths, right? Or many rabbit holes, but you are learning, you're curious, you've all this knowledge and insight. And I love learning, and I learn really quickly, and I'm scanning things and I pick them up. And what I do is I synthesize it really quickly. I crunch it down into the things that I need, or that I want to use. And then I use it and I just dump it and I move on to the next thing. And I don't think necessarily there's anything wrong with that. It's just a different way of learning and working.
Yeah, but at the same time, with ADHD, which is hard, is sometimes you have difficulty to finish a project that you need to do. Like, it's school, you need to finish your homework, or at work you need to finish a project and stuff like that. That can be hard, because when you are in it, it's fine. But when your boss says you need to change a little detail, and you're like, I want to pass on something else, please, I just cannot handle it
Yeah.
anymore. But you still, as an adult, need to do it, and it's very hard
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, yeah.
So
It's called procrastination, and right, and because it looks like we can get bored very quickly. We're very good at starting and implementing or finishing it. Well, hey, you know what? We have to do we have to do some brain hacking, or we go and we hang out with an ADHD or a motivational coach who can help us, who can facilitate us and help us, get through that barrier. I mean, for other people, it's maybe taking a stimulants. It helps to give them that focus. We've all got different ways of working. And I think the most important thing is to understand how it impacts you negatively but positively too. And why not work to your strengths? And the areas where you do have challenges, you look at finding solutions. And sometimes you can't do that always by yourself. You've got to reach out and get the support wherever you can. So being self-aware is really important, right? But none of us are perfect, Melly.
no.
Not even neurotypicals.
It's true. But you said that you were diagnosed very late, but when you were, I don't know, you probably had work before, and you need to be in
Yeah.
a team at work. But how did you deal with that? Did you think everybody were like you?
Yeah.
How did you didn't manage it or something?
Yeah. This is a really excellent question. I mean, I've jumped around with my work. I've worn many hats. I have always had that restlessness. So, I'd be lucky if I stuck around for 3 years. I mean, that's pretty damn good anyway in this day. But, I've been a recruiter, business development manager. I've lived and worked in Scotland, in Australia. I'm now in the UK. I've worn many different hats, so I like it because I can be flexible and adaptable. I'm open to trying new things. If something's bored, I'll switch it up. I know what my strengths are, and it has to. As long as I'm doing something creative and I'm working creatively, or I'm around creative people, I'm happy. But I know in my previous jobs, I would clash with authority. I didn't like being told what to do. I didn't like being part of a clique. I, like to be my own independent thinker.
It's
Um,
true.
yeah, and be respected for that. And so I would often find it a little bit difficult fitting in, because I felt like I had to merge in or blend in with the culture or the vibe that was there. And so I always felt like a slight outsider, not quite fitting in, nor did I want to at the same time.
It's true. It's true. I feel the same way. It was difficulty with my own parent too, because I didn't want to listen what they had to say, and I always got punished at the same time, and it was not always fun, or at school or at work
Yeah,
get fired, because that doesn't work like that. I always did my best, but now I'm working and I'm like, sometimes when they ask me something that I don't want to do, I'm like inside crashing to just do it, and just shut my
Yeah.
mouth and do
Yeah. I
it.
mean, there's parts of our job we don't like doing. That's everyone, right? And
Yeah,
so I think you got to play to your strengths and mold the job into, what your strengths and talents are. But I think a large part of it is knowing who you are and what you're good at. But there's also nothing wrong with pushing yourself and developing new skills, etc. But you really have, there's aspects of all of my work that I haven't enjoyed doing, and I know I've got to do it. But I try to lean in the areas and the things that I know I'm good at and that I like. But I also like to look and challenge myself and try new things because I think that's really important.
it's true. And even if you in a month you're bored about it and you want to do something else,
Yeah.
right?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Um, when it came to your diagnosis, I think you got yours a lot earlier than mine, right?
Yeah, I got mine at 6 or 7.
Okay, so you knew pretty much early on. I mean, when you were 6 or 7, did you know what this meant? I mean, how did you cope with that?
I didn't know what it meant, but when I was in kindergarten, my mom is speaking English, okay? She's from Ontario, and she bring me to an English school, okay? And that's where the hell began, actually. Not because of the English language, but mostly the teacher was very strict, very English strict, because the strictness is not the same with English and French, trust me, I know.
Yeah,
And she was extremely very very strict, and when I did something that one was annoying her, or I was moving a little bit more around because I was still a child, she was putting me in a chair and she put me like a strap and she said, don't move, and you stay there and you don't move. I'm like 5 years old, it's like, what the
mm,
heck.
mhm,
And in that time, people were like more, when a girl at ADHD, I have ADHD, I'm sorry, and they probably had mental delay too, okay? And they're like, and when I read my report, the psychologist say that I had a delay, that I was not able to do any, I'm not going to finish school, then I was not able to do anything else, she was like very negative about my diagnosis. She said I was like mentally retarded. This was actually that. I have the paper there. One day
mm,
maybe I will translate them and show you how it was in the early
mm,
90s to be diagnosed with ADHD as a woman. So
mhm.
for her, it's not like I'm just ADHD. I'm also retarded because I have ADHD as a woman. It was mostly like that. And of course, I did prove her wrong. I'm sure if I'm talking to her now, she was like, you're in college now? It's not like possible. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah,
So that was mostly what it was as a girl by being diagnosed. Of course, my mother was like, I'm going to bring her in French school, okay? I'm not going to
yeah.
bring her in English. Maybe it's too difficult for her to learn two languages. So she stopped. She almost stopped. At least she was mad at me. She was always speaking French to me because my father and my stepfather speak French too. So she
But
decided
listen,
to
listen,
stop.
look at your English. Your English is perfect. You keep apologizing for your English. I cannot, with my dyslexia, figure out how to speak a foreign language. It is like a minefield. I tried French. I went to the classes, I turn up, and I got that same feeling that I got when I was back in school trying to do maths. I just couldn't bloody get it, right? And so, all hats off to you, the fact, because I think your English is perfect. It really worries me that people out there were thinking that you were this young little girl who was retarded at aged 5. I mean, honestly, that really pisses me off, right? Because um, that stigma, having to grow up with that feeling that you are, quote, retarded when you're not actually. And so there's lots of myths we have to bust, right? And we still have to
Yeah.
do it because employers and people out there have misconceptions or assumptions based on lack of awareness and ignorance. So I think sometimes it's their responsibility to educate and be self advocates, because if you don't have a lived experience of it and it doesn't affect you, you're not going to really be that bothered, right? You're not going to really take the time to want to understand who's that person I'm working with or that's sitting opposite me. And so I think we all have a responsibility to support each other, find out who that person is that's in front of you, not judge them, but maybe make a decision to get to know that person first, before you start building assumptions and stigmas about the other person, and jumping to conclusions too quickly.
Yeah, it's true. And I'm glad that my mom did not always believe in me enough to not tell me that. I
Yeah.
knew that I had ADHD. I did take meds because at that time it was the first thing you do, and meds did help maybe a little bit, but not that much. So I stopped when I was a teenager, and I don't really see any difference with or without my meds. Only that I gained a lot of weight because when you take meds, the hunger is not the same. It's when you're not really hungry when you take meds. So I gained a lot of weight because of that, because I thought I could eat as much as I did before, but not anymore. So
Yeah, I understand. I mean, we can do a separate webinar on medication, right? I mean, honestly, we could go into a whole different subject on that, because, oh boy, did I have some journey on the meds. Oh my goodness me. What a shocker that was. And there's lots of people out there who think, you know, you need the meds, you can only have the meds, and to say that you don't need to use meds is being irresponsible. Everyone is a different journey. Everyone's got my ADHD is different from yours, is different from his, and we all make our own personal decision as what works best. For some people, it might be a mixture of different solutions. So you work with what you feel is gonna make you thrive, right? And help you
Mhm.
to be at your best. If it means taking meds and you want to take them, fine. But we know you just got to get the right dosage, the right psychiatrist who knows what they're doing. Otherwise it's a bit of a minefield, and it takes time. For others, they might decide that they want to really go down the holistic approach. So I think it's really up to the individual, right?
Exactly. It's not a necessity, but if you feel like it's best for you, do it. Don't let
Yeah,
anybody tell you that you shouldn't take your meds if you feel like you should take meds.
yeah,
And if you
yeah,
feel that you don't want to take meds, don't take them, and find other ways. Like my planner is big like that. Okay, I have a very big planner. I need to be organized because I wouldn't be able to do anything with my life. And sometimes even that is hard to go study and do stuff like that. So,
yeah.
and
I mean,
being
yeah, there's medication, there's diet, there is exercise, there is ADHD coaches, there is meditation, there's a whole wealth of things. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to try everything out and really work with, and it could be a couple of combinations that works for you. I find that I've got certain results in some areas, and I mean, I tried cognitive behavioral therapy, disaster. That wasn't going to work for me. That was just after I got my diagnosis, because my brain was fragmenting. It was going, I was going through, okay, now I've got this thing. And what is it? I actually really don't know what ADHD is. I actually didn't, Melly. I had to go away and look it up. I had to go and research it and check it out. And what does this mean to me? And I was trying to go, oh, yes, I am ticking all of those boxes. I had to go back and rethink. I felt like I had to go back and rethink everything. And I went through a whole period of grieving. I did some heavy, heavy grieving. Um, that was just part of my process. So I went into hibernation for 6 months and didn't really want to speak to anyone. I was dealing with and processing the diagnosis. And then all of a sudden I came out and I went the total opposite direction. So I decided to come out and wave the flag, because I thought, well, this is what I have. This is who I am. If I can help one other person and I can bust some myths, I'm going to do it, because I'm not going to sit silent about it. However, I respect the other person who probably may not want to share that because they want to be more private about it. And so, I kind of went through that whole cycle. But everyone's different, and whatever works for you, you just got to be true to yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do believe that you must do what you need to do to just understand it. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to not feel good about it. For me, I never felt that because I was diagnosed so young. So for me,
Yeah,
like a second nature is not something that I discovered today or discovered like not that long ago. So
yeah.
my question for you will be, what will you say to other people that are in their 40s or even older that want to know about ADHD, and if they are ADHD and they are scared to ask for help or getting a diagnosis, what will you say to them?
Reach out, reach out. I think knowledge is king or queen. I think once you have knowledge and information, it allows you to make choices and decisions. I mean, for me, the not knowing, Melly, was like a firestorm. I needed to put the fire out and I needed to know. And then when I did find out, oh, well, boy, we went into another firestorm, right? And then we had to work through that grief, acceptance. What does this mean? Do I take meds? Do I disclose this in my application for jobs? I mean, the whole thing just, but for me, it was the right thing to do because I've grown so much, I've learned so much. I actually know who I am now. I can figure it out. I can go, aha, I have these epiphanies and I go, oh, so that's why I'm quirky, or that's why I've lost my keys 3 or 4 times this week. Oh, that's why I've got these really creative outbursts. Oh, okay, that's cool. So, it was a learning experience and a real epiphany for me. So, my recommendation is if you've got a hunch and you think you are, just go for it. Don't be afraid. Just know that the diagnosis itself, journey. Be prepared because there may be a little bit of grieving and coming to terms with, or it might be a huge relief. And it's like, now I can go and I can make some choices. I can learn about it. I can find out. I can get into my new, I can listen to other stories, and this can help me process it and help me get through it. So there's a quote from W.B. Yeats. He's a famous Irish poet, right? And this is what he says. I'm going to just read it out because it kind of captures it for me.
Of course.
Happiness is neither virtue or pleasure, Melly, nor this thing nor that, but simply growth. We are happy when we are growing. And my diagnosis really helped me to grow and learn and understand who I was. And it took, well, a girl doesn't like to reveal her age. Kind of like somewhere between 30 and 40 years to really have that big growth. And I think that sums it up for me. That's what the diagnosis has done for me. And so based on that, I recommend people to just go for it and not be afraid, not being frightened, not be frightened.
Yeah, I do understand. It's not that easy all the time, but growth is always the best. For me,
Yeah,
growing and understanding more about myself, it's about helping others and having discussion to others that are
yeah,
like me or similar than me with this ADHD Melly show. That's why I decided to create that and take
yeah.
it a full-time job now. I can say it's a job. For now it's more volunteering, but one day
Yeah.
it's going to be a job, and I want to share more story, having my studio and bringing people in Montreal. Why not you coming in
And hey,
Montreal?
guys, everyone out there, I just want to say, like you were saying, Melly, about the growing, growth is not always a joyful thing. It can be a bloody painful thing. But the epiphanies, I mean, that's what life's all about, right? It's about growth. And as we go through life, it's not always going to be joyous. There's going to be some painful stuff, but that builds character, and resilience and grit, which is what a lot of us ADHDers and neurodivergents have. We have to have it, right? And the other thing is, I take my hat off to you for building this amazing platform.
Thank you.
And guys, can you please sign up to Melly's crowd funding and contribute, because she puts in a lot of work and effort to get this out there. And I just want to applaud you and say, thanks, Melly, for giving me the opportunity to just be able to share my story. And you're doing a fab job. You're already contributing massively.
Thanks so much. And you can only give $1. It's okay. You contribute what you can and not what you cannot, right?
Come
And
on, guys, let's give $2.
give as much as you can.
Hey, Melly, I'm feeling really generous today. I'm going to give you $20.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Do you have any questions from any of your audience at all?
Yeah, is there anyone here? Normally this question, where are you today? I'm
Where is
asking.
everyone? Oh, Melly, you know it's Friday and it's like coming on to what time? 6:30. People are kind of probably relaxing, putting their feet up. They're having that Friday night drink. They've had a big week.
That's why I always record it. So people, if you see this or you still want to ask question after seeing that video, please say repeat in the comment and ask a question. We'll be there to look at the comments all day, all night. Maybe not all when I'm sleeping, but you know what I mean. So you can just ask your question. We'll be so happy to answer them. And if you have any question for the crowdfunding, you can do it as well. And yeah, so do you have any question for Rosa today? I know there's people. I do see you guys. I know there's 5 people listening to me right now. So
Hey,
is there anyone?
Melly, whilst you're doing that and you're going through them, I mean, what would be your top tips for people out there who've got a hunch that they may, have ADHD or autism or something like that? I mean, because it can be a big thing to grapple with. What's your take on it? What do you think?
I will say that it's okay to not know for now. But if you're scared to see a professional, there's a lot of testing that you can do. I do have one on my website, if I'm not mistaken, a test that you can do and see a result if you may have ADHD. Of course, it's not professional advice, but maybe it will help you just say, okay, I'm going to get some answers more clearly. But at least if they say you don't have ADHD, maybe you can have a little bit if you are or not. But like I said, it's not professional advice, but it can help. And it's okay if you don't want to say to anyone that you may have ADHD and you want to keep it to yourself. It's okay too if you do your research, you do a little testing, like I said. If you have the intention of doing a net effort and go see a professional, I know that the delay is so freaking long. Even in Canada, I don't know how the delay is, but to have a family doctor is nearly impossible. Free healthcare doesn't mean better services. I'm telling you right now, it's not. And sometimes it does really sucks when even if you cut yourself and you need to go to the hospital, you can wait 12 hours, no joke.
Yeah,
it's very.
I think we've got the same issue here, right? There's long waiting lists. I mean, you can be waiting anywhere up to 1.5 years to get a diagnosis, depending on which part of the country that you're in. But I think that you're right. There are lots of little self-tests you can do. There are some apps that you can get into, so because if you go private, it is quite expensive to get a diagnosis. And so some people are okay knowing that they have it and they don't need to get the diagnosis, and they're pretty confident they have it, right? And so some of these little self-tests that you can do online can support that, because it can be expensive. And for some people, that's okay. For others, they feel they need to get the diagnosis because they need that complete confirmation. But I would say do your research and get the right psychiatrist and make sure that you're getting the support and the right triation when it comes to your meds and things like that, if that's the track you decide to go down. But you're right, equally, it's okay if you don't want to go get that diagnosis. For some people, they do it because it's going to help them get accommodations in their work, because they want to be able to discuss and disclose, because there are things you can get in the workplace, right? You got
Yeah.
dyslexia, you get more time to finish things. You may get specific assistive technology to help you. If you've got ADHD, there may be other sort of supports like an ADHD coach that you can get. So for some people, they're quite strategic about it. They may want to share and discuss because it's going to help them to thrive in the world of work. And so therefore they're happy to do so. And so I would say, from a world of work perspective, if you feel it's advantageous for you to discuss or disclose or share that information because it's going to help and support you in your world of work, do it. Otherwise, you don't have to do it. You don't have to share that if you don't want to.
And what I will say too, doctor says I'm going to put you on meds, say, wait a minute, and do your research first, and be sure that's the solution that you want for yourself, and not just take the meds because they're offering you like candies, okay? Do your research and make sure they are made for you, and that this is something that may really help you, and not because it's forced on you. You need to think about that, because it's the future. It's really harsh meds too, okay? And you cannot just decide to do it right now, right away. And after, if you did your research and you're certain that it is for you, go ahead and take meds. Talk to your doctor of the alternative if you don't want to take meds too, because there is alternative too. And yeah, you have to do a clear thinking, and it's not in grief and when you're scared or you don't feel good because you had a diagnosis that you have to say, yes, fix me now, because meds does not fix you, okay? It's
the meds work to give you the focus, and maybe reduce the impulsivity in certain areas. It's not going to be a fix-all for everything. I think that some people think it's going to motivate me, it's going to do X, Y, and Z, it's going to change my world. And for some people, it's really, really, really helpful. And for others, it helps a little bit. And then for others, there's massive side effects which outweigh the positives of taking it. And so you have to work with the right psychiatrist who knows what they're doing. There are so many different types of stimulants, and you have to get the sweet spot. You've got to get the right dosage. You go too high, you'll turn into a zombie or something like that, which is what happened to me. You go too low and you can't see any results. So the triation takes patience, it takes time, and it may involve trial and error, trying out different types of meds or whatever. So you're absolutely spot on. These are controlled drugs, and they're serious drugs, right? And so you need to do your research. You need to be responsible for your own health. But you do need to get a really, really excellent psychiatrist that you feel comfortable with. That's our tips, right, Melly?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, for meds, but no for rushed meds. And yes, like you said,
Melly, stay away from the candy.
Go away from the cat. Exactly. It's not going to fix every problem that you have, okay? And yes, maybe your meds won't work at first and you're going to be discouraged or something. Sometimes you can have very bad side effects at the beginning. And if you have to be persistent and find the right kind of medicine and the right doses that fits for you, like you said. And no, it's not going to work like that. I remember when I was a kid, I switched a lot of meds all the time, and before they find the right one, and even that for me didn't work really great. Okay, I still had difficulty concentrating. It was a little bit better because I the only thing that really helped is I was not moving as much in class, but for my concentration, it didn't really help that much. A little bit, but not enough to be like, I'm going to be like on that meds for the rest of my life. No. So yes, maybe I should have tried more. Maybe it discouraged me because my parent gave me that sort, and I had to keep that brand. Maybe if I did my research at that time, I was like a child, and internet was not that good neither at the
Yeah,
time.
I know, but but how were you to know, And so that's why having the right support system around you, especially with your medical practitioners who are supposed to know this stuff. And, it should be patient led. You're the patient leader, and you should be supported on your journey, and not just given it like it's some sort of candy and off you go and you'll be okay. I'm not suggesting for a second, by the way, out there, that that's what goes on, but everyone's different and we're all going to react differently to that same medication. And so that very careful one-on-one with your doctor or psychiatrist to make sure it's right for you. And it does take time, okay? But it may not be suitable for everyone. It may be a combination of things. Melly, I'd love to take a question if anyone's got one.
There's no question, unfortunately. They seem to be more tired today. But there's people listening to us. I do see it. So maybe they're too shy. Are you shy to ask a question, guys? But like I said, it's okay. We're going to stay on that conversation on the video. Like I said, say repeat in the comment with your question, or if you have anything you want to say, because I do understand we are in Friday. And I always do my show Fridays. I know some people don't like it, but for me, it's accommodating me a little bit better. For me, it's the best day, so I do it that time. So I want to ask you, what will you say to end that show? You're the one that ended it.
Oh, so what's my last tip or piece of advice?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
okay, just be, you know what? Oh goodness.
Take your time.
Just be yourself. Be your beautiful, gorgeous, creative, quirky self. You don't have to apologize for who you are. You don't have to wear a mask or hide behind it if you don't want to. Read up, learn, meet other like minded people, listen to their stories, share your story, and you will find that maybe things will change, that you'll feel a little bit more comfortable and confident. Maybe you already are as you are, and that's cool. The most important thing is that you want to meet like-minded people who are progressive and who are not going to judge. I mean, I think for me, one of the biggest things was connecting with other ADHDers, other people who had autism. I listened to their stories. They were more than happy to share their stories with me, because one of the big things that we are is we are really generous and empathetic, and we care and we understand, and we want to share our lived experience. And that was the biggest breakthrough for me, was listening to other people's stories. And I've built some excellent friendships with some fabulous people, who've been my mentors and my guides, and I've built some excellent friendships through it, and I'm just loving it. And so I would say reach out and build your tribe or your community. If you don't have to sit behind that mask anymore, just go for it. Just like Melly is.
Be raw and true.
You rock, Melly.
That's what I say on my video, on my campaign. Be raw and true. That's what I wanted for my show, and that's why I don't want to be. That's why I don't want to do some script video. Like, you will see my video is script on my Indiegogo. I'm so a bad
By
actress,
the way, guys, I
I'm
had no idea what questions Melly was going to ask me. I was like, holy, we're just going to go for it. And I actually love it. It's really refreshing. You're really spontaneous. I love your show.
Thank you.
And please donate to Melly at least $20.
Let's go.
Let's go, Melly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's so nice to you. So we're going to leave you now. Like I said, if you have questions, go here on the bottom. And don't forget to see here, the little contribution there. Let's go, contribute. And be part of that show too, because I'm doing that show for you guys mostly. And that's why I wanted to success, because I want to continue informing about things about ADHD. And don't forget, I'm going to post every day something about ADHD in this next month, because it's the ADHD awareness month, and for me it's a very important month. And yeah, so I hope to see you very soon, guys, and see you next Friday. Bye.
Bye, Melly. Melly rocks, guys. Don't forget to contribute. Bye. Bye, Melly.
Bye.
Bye, Mel.